anecdote on the 392nd to step forward. Roger, would you please come to the mic, sir?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to know the truth, he said I had to sing for my supper. He said, we ain't going to feed you unless you do something in return. So I thought that I would try and tell you some of the anecdotes that I've collected about the 392nd bomb group over the years. Now the problem is that many of these anecdotes you cannot tell in mixed company. And most of the rest you can't tell in any company. But I do recall two tales about a couple of characters who are here. They'd never tell you these. But let me try and see if I can remember how it goes. Now, one of these concerns a gentleman who at the time was known as Lieutenant, and I don't say lieutenant, I don't like lieutenant, because in England a Lou is the name for a John, and I feel it's rather insulting to be called a lieutenant because it rather sounds as if you're a toilet attendant. But I am being generous and calling them the good old English lieutenant. Well, this is Lieutenant Robert Vickers. Now, he was quite a dashing soul with the ladies. You may or may not know this. And the story goes that... It's all right, Lewis. The story goes that coming back from a mission one day, he was short of gas, so he thought he would call up an English base, an English airfield down below that they came across, and drop in to refill. So he called this airfield, and back came one of those cultivated English voices from one of the WWII girl controllers, and she said something like this, "B. Baker, this is Homestead calling. Can I have your height and position?" And old Clever Chops here radios back, "Well, ma'am, I'm about 6'1" and sitting in the left-hand seat of this B-24. There is a silence, and then the cultivated voice comes back again. B. Baker, this is Homestead. We don't want any smart asses down here. Go find yourself somewhere else to land." Never tell you that. But now the other lieutenant, you see again, I think of his sensibilities and don't call him an unmentionable tenant, was a guy called Lieutenant Keith Roberts. Now he was a navigator and he was fine in the air, but like all navigators on the ground, give him a few twirls and he doesn't know where he's coming or going. And he used to like to seek his entertainment, and we won't say what sort of entertainment he used to seek, out in the English countryside. And he would get on his bicycle and out he would cycle into the countryside to enjoy himself. But in those leafy lanes, those twisting English roads, he got lost on one occasion, badly lost, couldn't find his way back to base. Well, he came across an old English gentleman leaning on the gate, and he said, "Hey, Pop, I'm lost. Can you tell me the way back to Wendling Aerodrome?" You know, he spoke like that in those days. And the old man scratched his head. I don't know. I never heard of it. I don't know. So Keith tried again. He said, "Well, do you know the way to East Dereham near Wendling Aerodrome?" The old man scratched his head and said, I don't know. I don't know. So Keith tried again. He said, "Do you know the way to..." Lost my accent. Do you know... It's difficult, you know, in Cajun country. I'm going to get there. Do you know the way to the main Norwich road that goes to East Dereham?" And the old boy said, "No, I don't know that. I don't know that." So Keith was getting a bit annoyed, and he said, "Well, you don't know anything, do you, Pop?" The old boy came back quickly. He said, "Well, I may not know much, but I do know I ain't lost like you, mate."
Well, that wasn't half as bad as I thought. Well, a little later, Roger, we have a retribution for you. Nicely meant. You'll see. You'll get yours. We were real fond of this gentleman. And we're honored to have him for greatest reason because, you know, there's a lot of demands on his time when he comes, and he tries to serve all people at all times. And so I know that I speak for Colonel and Mrs. Gilbert that having these nice people here certainly is a wonderful experience for all of us. So please come up and sing. Now, I feel a little modest by doing this. I think I'm going to give this to his wife, Jean. But on behalf of the 392nd, and I would like to present you with our history once again. He said, "Bob, you gave me that thing 15 years ago." But I autographed this one. He didn't know me then, so my dear friend, that's the 50th anniversary edition.
Thank you very much. I'm going to let the side down and tell you this cover is a fake. It's a girly book really inside. And I need it.
Well, if you haven't seen his book, and I'm going to pitch this one, The Airmen of the Mighty Eight. It's one of the greatest books, and I would call them anecdotes true. And it's a fine effort. Lois got into it today, and she and I wrestled for the book. We can't put it down. Okay, going on. There's one other gentleman who's been doing a lot of taping of our festivities here, and again, a dear friend. I know many of you know him, and I certainly worked with him for years, and so is the 8th Air Force, and certainly he did an incredible job for us on the B-24 50th anniversary. Mac McGovern, we're only going to give him 3 minutes. This big guy back there, a small guy back there with a big hands. He's a wonderful person. What he doesn't know about audio-visual, but come here. You only get 3 minutes one time. But let me just tell you in all sincerity, he's a modest sort of a fellow. But if you ever knew the role of a combat cameraman in World War II, this gentleman right here exemplifies that person because he was one of the first heads of the elements of combat camera work in England. Specifically, he was responsible for a lot of the work on the Memphis Belle, which he will tell you briefly. You will, Dan, won't you? Why the Memphis Belle, the 98 Bird B-17, you know, the other airplane, was credited to being the first bomber that finished 25 missions. Having said that, I got one more story to tell about Dan Troop. He was the first U.S. serviceman, combat cameraman, that walked in among the rubble of Hiroshima. And he was so tall, these Japanese kids were looking at him, and they pulled up his khaki pants and started pulling the hair out of his leg, thinking he was some picket fence. And this is true, isn't it? That story you told me. But anyway, I'd like to have Mac just say a couple words. Turn on your machine so your grandkids will know you were here. Okay, Mac. Dan McGovern, retired Air Force, wonderful man, California, and he's thankful to have you, Dan. You want to watch shaking hands with this gentleman?
You know, Bob said a lot about me, but I'm one of those cameramen that the forgotten type. And in history, you can go down to the Mighty Eight Theater and you see an awful lot of historical films. Nobody knows who shot those things, but the dumb cameraman, the forgotten cameraman. I say, who is the first man up on top of that great mountain? Who is the cameraman? He's up there before the great hero comes up on the top. But anyway, Bob was telling the story about Japan. I got into Japan about the 7th of September 1945, and I was with the newsreel pool at that time, and my interpreter, who was a Nishi boy, Michio Shimamura, he says, "Lieutenant Mac," he says, don't make any fuss," he says, "there's a bunch of girls across the A lot of people don't know this, but the Japanese had taken all the virgin females out of the city and moved them up into the country. Then they had in the city a group of bloomer girls with the bloomers on. And they were the one that was going to take the assault of the American servicemen. But they found out afterwards that these American servicemen were soft touches. Okay, one of them came up to me and said, Michi Shimamura said, don't make a fuss about it, Mac. They want to do something. That's a fun thing. So one came down in Japanese. She bent all the way down, pulled my left leg up, took her index finger and her thumb, and pulled a couple of hairs, and ran across the street. And I says to Mish, what the hell was that all about? Well, he says, I've never seen a guy so big as you that thought you were on stilts. Now, quick, about the Memphis Belle. That's a farce. That's a farce. The Memphis Belle was not the first airplane, bomber, I will say bomber, to fly 25 missions. There was a bomber by the name of Snafu. I won't tell you what the F means in the Snafu. So we cameramen changed the name to We the People. And on the 2nd of August 1943, a group of congressmen came over to bid this wonderful airplane farewell, go back to the States and sell bonds. That never happened. There was another airplane that was in line called Tiger Lady. She was a female, top up female, bottom down Tiger. We couldn't use that. You had Hell's Angels, you had Old Bill, and you had all sorts of airplanes. But Memphis Belle was the last resort. It was the last one in the line. Memphis Belle, the boy back home, or the girl back home, the boy fighting the battle. So on the 23rd of December 1943, the Memphis Belle toured the United States to sell bombs. Basically, that's the story. Don't believe what you hear. Thank you very much.
Max certainly is not degrading the Memphis Belle for what it did, but I guess the gist of the story was there was political aspect of what you display as Mozart that would go around the United States selling bonds, and the Memphis Belle rung a better name, and certainly a wonderful crew and a wonderful airplane, so this is not to say that it wasn't great. And us don't ever tell the 91st Bomb Group, Basketball, anything about this.
They know it.
Acknowledge. Well, the time has come almost to end this, but not before a song fest. By unpopular demand, as I mentioned coming up here, we're going to dedicate a song, I am, to my friend Roger Freeman. And if you don't mind, I'll sing on a harmony, but I got a little something to... Yesterday we visited the Chalmette battlefield, right? So it brought to mind something that I just know Roger had to have, and that is a song that Johnny Horton, who's now gone, sang. And it went something like this. We've altered it a bit. In 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took along some bacon and we took along some beans, and we fought the bloody Brits at the Battle of New Orleans. Old Hickory said, we'll take 'em by surprise. Don't you fire your muskets till you look 'em in the eye. Then Roger Freeman jumped up with a rousing cheer. Don't fire those things, 'cause the mighty eight's here. So we ran through the bushes and we ran through the band. Well, ain't so much for that. Roger, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to finish this up on a quick note. A couple words in here. Aborts means you don't do the mission for whatever reason. I know it means all things to all people. Either you quit it on the runway, or for fear you turn back, which we did in the 392nd. But abort means you didn't get there or you didn't go. Now that's one.
Nothing to do with pro-choice or pro-life.
No. And VHF, which you'll hear, is very high frequency, which was the only kind of radio we had to talk to whoever in those days. It was supposed to be radio silence, but sometimes in sheer terror you had to say, what in the hell are you doing? But nonetheless, we're going to sing you 2 or 3 verses of an old song. Many of you did. We did. At least we did, didn't we? We're going to clean this thing up. Okay. The name of it is Early Aborts. Okay? Larry, can you go through this again after 1987 when we were We're at Tulsa. Okay. Get up where I can see it too. Oh, my name is Colonel Gilbert. I'm the leader of the group. Now gather around, you pilots, and I'll give you all the poop. I'll tell you where the Luftwaffe is and where to find the flak. I'll be the last one off the ground and first one to turn back. Early aborts, avoid the rush. Early aborts, avoid the rush. Now my sister's name is Minnie, and I plot the Yankee flights. She plots them in the daytime and she plots them in the night. She's listened to all the quibblings over Yankee VHF. She's even been propositioned over Yankee VHF. Early aborts, avoid the rush. You need me. Why don't you go? You're better. Wait. Well, anyway, there's another one.
Okay, here we go.
What's this one down here?
I like this one.
Oh, here we go. Oh, we fly those bloody lips at 20,000 feet. We fly them in the rain and snow and in the bloody sleet. And when we think we're flying south, we're flying bloody north. And we make our bloody landfall on the Firth of Bloody Fourth. Early aborts. Avoid the rush. Early. Is that it?
That's it.
God bless. So we made this one up in the room this afternoon. You got to end somewhere. Put a picture. Bolt, period. Here we go. So Dugan's crew is finished with this awful, awful score. We know that you will never request a rousing last encore, but we've enjoyed your patience in this trying song of yours, because it must be worse than living through that